Hello and welcome to Talking Tent, a brand new podcast about movies, TV, and all of the content we could possibly consume.
My name is Zach.
And I'm Irma.
We are a married couple whose love for movies and TV cannot be contained, so we've decided to share our thoughts, opinions, cheers, and occasional jeers with the world. It's Valentine's Day, so we'll be celebrating that special day for lovers by talking rom-coms in 2023, where they stand, what they are they good? But first, we're going to start like we always do with some hot goss and industry talk. And I think the big thing that happened this week was
the Puppy Bowl.
The big game, the Super Bowl.
Oh, right.
Actually.
That happened too.
Yeah, maybe one day I'll have a Talkin' Tackles where I can actually really talk the X's and O's, which I would love to do. I came in thinking that the Eagles were the better team, but you cannot discount Patrick Mahomes, and that's what it ultimately came down to. The Eagles defense totally blew it. But I think Irma would much rather talk the halftime show and the commercials.
We could talk about football. I mean, hey, I'll sit here quietly while you pontificate.
Maybe that's for our Patreon exclusive Talkin' Tackles coming
Talking
next
Zach.
season.
Yeah, I mean, the halftime Super Bowl, I think it was unbelievable. I thought it was great. Rihanna came back after 7 years of not performing. She looked great. She announced she was pregnant with a little belly rub, as you now do. And I think she was great. I loved it. What'd you think?
Yeah, I was pretty impressed by the production.
Yeah, the production was unbelievable.
And she sounded great. You never know what you're going to get out of these shows. I think it's really hard because it's a massive stadium and they don't exactly have the same amount of time they normally would for a concert to figure that all out, setting it up, ripping it down. Although I guess some of the recent ones, The Weeknd sounded great also. But she sounded great. And the production was just insane.
Yeah,
like,
those stages, that was crazy.
The floating stages was such a good use of the space.
Just like the visual.
And it was definitely the most visually stunning show I can think of. I can't remember them using so much choreography in the cameras. So obviously she had like 200 dancers.
Yeah, because the camera went upside down at one point. Yeah, you're right.
Obviously she had 200 dancers out there with her.
Yeah.
All guys in white while she glowed.
Glue. I've never heard that term before, glued in red.
Yeah, it's wrong. It's wrong. That's why you've never heard it.
Oh my God.
Moving on, just the camera, all the drone shots they used. It's like everybody's really advancing what they can do with drones. You got platforms flying in the air. The best way to capture all that is with drones flying with them.
I know Rihanna was strapped in. Were the rest of the dancers strapped in?
I imagine they were.
Okay.
Yes.
So they were like dancing. I know she was kind of like mostly in place, and I don't blame her for not like dancing, I would say, on those platforms because it looked pretty scary, but yeah.
Oh, I would be terrified. I can't imagine. I'd be shaking she must have just been up there for a little bit just to get her bearings and all the practices and just practicing something that high, dealt with it. But I would be shaking in my little boots if I was hanging up there so loose. The Steadicam work obviously it probably didn't look as cool if you were there because you saw the cameras, but the one Steadicam shot with all the dancers, he went through the line, and then they moved out of the way and they moved out of the way.
That's the one shot that's like all over Instagram. It's just like me wearing white pants when I have my period, and then all of a sudden Rihanna's there.
Oh, yeah, and that's when she did the old touch and sniff, huh?
Oh, sure.
No, she appeared holding her butt. She had a few iconic shots that I think she knew what she was doing. The memification of the internet. I think she knew I can't fully perform because I guess she didn't feel confident with all the dancing.
I mean, I don't really care if she wanted to dance or not dance. Is she known for her dancing?
I don't know, but she didn't really move, right? If that's one knock, that's the one knock.
Yeah.
So she made up for it by having just some iconic shots.
Yeah, I suppose.
With her different looks, her different faces, the use of her hands in different provocative ways. But yeah, I thought it was excellent. Very entertaining.
Yeah. And she's pregnant with her second baby. They don't call him A$AP Rocky for nothing.
What do
No?
they call it? Why? Why do they call it that then?
ASAP. Like ASAP.
Ah, I get it. Oh boy.
ASAP.
Yep.
Sorry.
They got it quick. Nope, not your fault. Went straight over my head.
Well, I don't think I said it right.
That's all right.
That was a joke from a friend of mine.
You stole.
I did.
The joke. And then I guess people watch the Super Bowl. They like to say that they watch the Super Bowl for commercials, but we were talking while we were watching it, and like the commercials are never really that good. I feel like every time
never.
we're always like, oh God, the commercials are so good. Then after, everyone's like, oh, the commercials were fine. But they're always fine. People just forget. Because commercials in general are always just fine.
Well, sometimes they can be really good. And I want to say there's always like maybe one or two that like really like I remember. Like that Farmer's Dog commercial, I thought was so good. I actually made me tear up when you're like seeing the dog get older. And then like at the end of the commercial, you see his life from his perspective. I was just like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. Other than that, I did kind of like the Pepsi commercials, the first one with Ben Stiller and then with Steve Martin. I mean, whatever. They were fine. And then all of the other ones, like they were just so overloaded with celebrities. And I really feel like they're doing the nostalgia push where it's just like, oh, remember that person? Oh, right. Oh, remember that person. And they're only there for a second. And it's just, I don't know. Just gets like a bit too much. Like it all becomes like so repetitive and half the time you don't even know what it's for. I mean, even Jesus got his own commercial.
Jesus got lots of commercials, but those Jesus commercials have been every football Sunday.
Well, I've never seen it, but yeah. Oh God.
Those yellow and black newfangled Jesus commercials. Yeah, the Farmer's Dog one was a big one. I kind of like seeing some of those relatively small companies really make a pop. I think that was probably the biggest commercial.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, besides just having like Alicia Silverstone back as Clueless Girl, right?
Yeah.
But as something that people be like, were you crying from the commercial too?
Oh.
And it's nice. It's a small company that probably put a lot, that we're like, all right, we're spending a lot of our marketing budget on this.
True.
And I think it worked.
Yeah.
And apparently they're a pretty good company.
No Budweiser commercial.
Yeah,
no like Clydesdale or like the polar bears for like Coke even, right?
Yeah, I can't remember any Coke commercials, but I don't know if Pepsi puts the Bogarts it or something.
Oh, yeah, I feel like Coke always does at least have one commercial. You can't just Bogart the whole thing, can you?
I don't know. I don't know the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, last year everyone was freaking out because it was like the crypto bowl, everyone called it, because of all the crypto commercials. Then obviously crypto this year has been in a troubled state, and this year kind of felt like the electric car commercials. It was the big, all of the big companies. So obviously everyone knows Tesla, but all the big main normal car companies came out as their big announcements of like, we have these trucks, we have our GMC trucks.
And one of them did a collaboration with Netflix, which was so weird, but kind of cool in the same way.
I think that was the Chevy one. It's like half Chevy, but then they were recreating Netflix stuff with David Harbour.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
I had fun watching the Super Bowl. It turned out to be a really good game. I did not expect there to be that much scoring.
Oh, and I even won the boxes. I was so proud of myself.
Irma won the boxes with 8-5, which is so unheard of.
I had never rooted for Kansas City to get a field goal in my life.
Yeah, really funny how it worked out. They needed to. There was 35-35. Irma needed 3 points from Kansas City, so they knelt it down. It worked out perfectly. Didn't go in for the touchdown. Controversial penalties maybe cloud some of the talk, but hopefully people realize that the Eagles defense totally let the team down. That's for talking tackling, though. Now we're going to pop on our sweaty sweats, get in our comfies, maybe grab a snack, sitting on the couch, and we're talking TV. The Last of Us, episode 5. We're going to fully spoil episode 5 of The Last of Us, so if you haven't listened to it, fast forward about 7 minutes. Came out early, actually, to not compete with the Super Bowl. Dropped on Friday. Very smart. It's nice. I mean, it must feel nice now for the HBO and them to just be like, all right, we could just move it. It's just not as important when it's on. It's just available on the streamer or classic HBO. for those people that are
And this
still
one was
watching.
another heavy episode. I feel
another
like
great one. It continues to be shockingly good.
Yeah.
Obviously, I heard the game was good and the narrative is good, and Craig Mazin has now a reputation, but I am still blown away each time. Like, how can they possibly do that again and do it again and keep me riveted? And then this one did it again. They introduced 2 new characters and got me loving them. And
Yeah,
then,
with Henry and Sam, 2 brothers. Oh my gosh, Sam is so cute. I couldn't get over how cute he was. And he's really deaf. And I just love that they like incorporated that into the story. Because you think like, I mean, not everyone's an able person. And of course, like in the apocalypse, like it's nice to show those type of stories. And then how he relies on Henry, similar to how Ellie relies on Joel, and them needing each other. They have, what is it called? Like a mini interview after every episode. And we always watch that. And they were saying how like this relationship is like a mirror of Joel and Ellie. And yeah, it just was like a devastating episode. I mean, when you think like, oh, it's about to end happy for once, like they're going to come with them on this journey. And then all of a sudden, just one more minute later, it's just like the most heartbreaking thing. And then, yeah, like just like another suicide. This is what, the second episode that they've done that? It's just awful.
quite rough, very bleak outlook.
Yeah.
It will be interesting to see. From the little I know of the game, I know it's mostly just Joel and Ellie walking around, getting to where they need to get to. So how much are they going to deviate from that? I think they have in certain aspects, but will it get to the point like, should I even have considered that these two characters might make it out of the episode? Or was it obvious that nope, it just doesn't work? Like, will we just constantly know that it's always going to end in devastation until maybe the end when something might work out? But then there's The Last of Us 2, which they're doing season 2 and 3 about. So it must continue being really, really bad.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, like, I was definitely waiting for something to happen. I thought maybe they could just go on their separate ways. Like, maybe they have a place that they, like, know of and want to get to. I was just, like, hoping that, like, it wouldn't end as bad. And, like, I was waiting for Sam to say he was bit. Like, I was waiting for Henry to say they got bit. And, of course, Sam did get bitten. And so Ellie tries to save him with her blood because she thinks she's immune or something. And, of course, it doesn't work. And I don't know. It's just, like, really sad, like, Henry having to kill Sam and then realizing that he cannot live without Sam. Like, he just, like, he needs, like, they both need each other to survive. And so he kills himself. And then Joel is just kind of like, wow, like, he lost his person too, like in the first episode, but he kept going. But so what's that say about him?
Yeah, that was very early on in the outbreak.
That's true.
The daughter immediately died. Henry had 20 years to realize that there was really no point in life other than his brother. So when Joel's daughter died, Joel hadn't completely lost hope in the entire world yet. I'm sure and if Ellie were to die, I don't see him killing himself, but I think he would just be like, what's even the point of anything? Yeah. That's it. There's nobody left. Or if he finds out, which I'm sure he will based on what's happening in the show, that his brother is dead. We'll see. I just continue to be so impressed by Craig Mazin because even I'm talking about this and being concerned about will the bleakness become predictable? Yet this episode was holding out hope that something might work out for these two characters. And then it was even the delivery of the two deaths still like immensely affected me. And I actually didn't even see the turning the gun on himself coming. I thought he would just give the gun up and break down. And then he didn't. Yeah.
And I just want to go back and just say like, it's similar to like Frank and Bill basically not being able to live without Frank and them just kind of deciding like, well, there's just no point in living in this world without you.
Very true.
So that's how like Henry feels. He's like, without Sam, there's no point.
I did also want to just shout out the swarm scene. That was cool. The swarm scene, it was terrifying when Irma called it out first, actually, when the truck started to sink. She was like, oh, they're coming. And
so ominous.
And it was so cool. only kind of complaint, and this goes back to the fact that it's based on a video game. I think they're giving the video game players a little too much. The concept is based on the video game. A lot of the story beats are definitely based on the video game. They never, I understand in a video game, there needs to be more powerful monsters. That's just how it works in Resident Evil and such, and other similar games where you're fighting beasties. There's always bigger beasties because the easier beasties you get annoyed of having to kill them, and then other ones boss level. That's what I screamed when the giant one came out of the ground. In this world, they hadn't how? What is that? Is that just a 7'5" guy that was massive and turned into a mushroom being? Maybe. It kind of seemed like they didn't. These things are people, and now they've kind of introduced that they're. I don't know. I don't know what that was. It was cool as hell. I'm just not positive it works in the story that they had developed outside of the video game.
I agree.
And then the sniping thing was cool. I, again, was envisioning that part of the video game and being up there and watching Ellie move through the maze of bodies and trucks. And I imagine you were sniping and keeping her from getting eaten. And it was probably really cool and scary.
Yeah, that was super impressive.
And moving on to our first disappointment, I think Poker Face this episode was not good.
Yeah, it was definitely a little disappointing. I just didn't love the characters. I didn't love the setting. I don't know. I just felt like it was, I don't know, a bit contrived in a way, just a bit predictable.
They had also kind of already done it with the Lil Rel Howery episode, that the victim, we were duped, and then the people that killed them were secret lovers. That.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it was just disappointing.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
I kind of started thinking, is the concept already a little tired? Because if you're not going to, I know we celebrated the fact that it's going to be an easy, fun watch and we're not going to have to be crying. But then also, if there's going to be that little depth to it, I think they need to make it a little funnier. And maybe it was just this episode that there really weren't any laughs, and they were in the theater, so they were kind of really hamming up the acting. So it's like a theater episode for theater people, and the theater people were really a little over the top. But yeah, I think if they're gonna, I don't know how many more episodes there are, but if it's gonna stay pretty flat on the depth, I need a few more giggles.
Yeah, we were also a bit drunk when we watched this. So who knows if maybe that played a part in it, but well, we'll see where it goes. I think the next episode the next TV show, I should say, we wanted to talk about is Extraordinary, which is also on Hulu.
Extraordinary is yet another real life take on the superhero genre, I suppose. So similar to The Boys or Invincible, but far less serious and way less violent. It's interesting. The creator kind of envisioned a world where people gained powers when they were 18, but they're not necessarily superpowers. In fact, most of them aren't. A bunch of people seem to be able to fly, which is nice. One of the main characters can channel the dead.
Well, I feel like that's a cool power.
Yeah, but you can't save the world. It's not like superpowers, like superhero superpowers.
Yeah, no, I know.
They're very normal.
Yeah.
So the whole,
not normal, but yeah, they're just abilities.
True, yeah. And the whole world gets a power. So it's just very normalized. These people aren't special. And in fact, the main character, Jen, the story is about her because she's now 25 and her power never developed. So it's kind of like one of these fish out of water, awkward girl that can't fit in, but in a world where everybody has powers and she's just normal.
Yeah, and she's kind of not fun, but also very funny. I don't know, it's just hard to explain. She's kind of self-sabotaging. She's angry because she doesn't have a power, but she's trying to be all cool about it. But yeah, I mean, I feel like if I were to live in that world and I never got a power, I would feel like I would be a horrible human being to people. I would just be awful. You know what I mean? Imagine being in your 20s.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah,
that's what they deal with. It's very funny. So it
leans hilarious.
It leans more towards things like Derry Girls being human, which is more supernatural, so it's a pretty good comparison. Lovesick, which was on Netflix, was formerly called Scrotal Recall, just about 3 people that live together in their 20s, and it's their sex lives. And so ultimately this story is about people with powers, and the reason that she's an outcast because she doesn't have powers, but it's not really about the powers.
No,
It's
not
more
at
just
all.
about people in their 20s trying to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I kind of love that like people have these abilities and no one really like helps anyone. Like I feel like I said this in the last episode, but like I believe it takes place in London. And like the city itself, it's not like anything's really changed that much. You would think that they would have like advanced or something with all these abilities, but no, it's just kind of like maybe even a worse place to live because now people can just like, I don't know, exploit their powers to get money. You know what I mean? Like I think we meet a veterinarian and he talks to animals, but they're still all caged up. It's not like he sets these animals free. Like,
yeah, a crazy power for a vet to have, although you understand that it's easier for him to do his job because he can hear what the animals are thinking.
yeah.
When they're sick, it's a lot easier for someone to be able to tell you what hurts, but it's also the animals are miserable and he has to hear that all the time.
Yeah.
And then the one character that does kind of try and fall into their classic superhero and get a gang together to stop street crime is the third of the 3 roommates, which is
Carrie's boyfriend. Yeah.
So there's Jen, who doesn't have the powers.
Right.
And then Carrie and her boyfriend. And Carrie and Jen are longtime friends from high school. And so the boyfriend actually probably has one of the most powerful powers in the show. He's just a buffoon and doesn't really know how to use it. He can turn back time. And
but like not very far.
Yeah, so the way they get away with it is that he can't go back years or months and like stop a war.
Yeah.
But he can go back 5 minutes. Like you could go back 5 minutes to do a lot of things to either make yourself ridiculously wealthy or something, or or just actually help with certain things. You can save someone from getting hit by a bus.
Or not have a fight with your girlfriend, which is what he does a lot in the show.
One of the episodes goes into that they're having a party, and for him it's like 24 hours because he just keeps rewinding things because he doesn't want to have the hard talk.
And then there's your favorite character, Jizzlord.
Yeah.
Who's a cat.
In these shows, comedy shows, I tend to just love the idiot character for some reason. Not that he's an idiot. Joey in Friends was my favorite friend. So Jen takes in a stray cat who she thinks is just a cat. And we quickly learn that that is a human whose power was that he could transform. And he transforms into a cat at one point and gets stuck. And then when he goes back to human form 3 years later, he has kind of forgotten how to be a human.
Yeah, he has like amnesia.
Yeah, and he doesn't remember anything from before his life. Before his cat life. So he's kind of an idiot, and he relies on
because he's
Jen.
like learning how to be a human again.
So it's like a fully grown adult who's very skinny and tiny person, but like learning what thing, like really simple things mean. But we would definitely recommend it, especially if you like some of the shows I compared to. Dairy Girls, very similar, quick-witted humor, awkward girls.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're London as opposed to Ireland, but close enough.
Very fun. Okay, now we're moving on to date night. All of these movies, I believe we watched at home. We didn't go into the theaters. They're all rom-coms. And the first one we're going to talk about is Your Place or Mine, which was on Netflix. And this is the one with Reese Witherspoon and Ashton Kutcher that came out about, I would say, people in their 40s who dated at one point, are best friends. Dating didn't work out. They're best friends. They live across the country from each other. Reese is in California. Ashton is in Dumbo, Brooklyn, New York. And this is them getting together, I guess.
So Reese's character, who we learn is no longer married, has a son, and the son's father is not involved. She has to travel to New York to take presumably a week-long course that is going to help her in her career at a college where everybody else is there for the full year, phase one in the complaints we'll have that immediately did not compute. They don't really explain what it is, but so
I think it's like an accounting course.
Sure,
but still, a week-long accounting course, it doesn't really make sense.
The plan was that she was going to hang out and see Ashton Kutcher. They're best friends. They chat all the time, every single day. They share everything about their lives with each other. And then someday, the person that's supposed to watch her son bails, who actually Rachel Bloom in a tiny, tiny part. But something comes up and she can't watch the kid. So then Ashton says, oh, I'll fly out to California, watch your kid while you fly to New York and do your course. And you could stay at my place. And I'm such a good guy, right? So they switch sides of the country, hence your place or mine. And they switch houses. And it's kind of your classic trading spaces. We're switching lives. And none of it works.
No. It's very strange. Like, I don't understand how you can have chemistry with someone who you don't even share the screen with. Like, I don't understand how this rom-com was ever supposed to work when they're just always on the phone with each other and then, like, learning about each other's lives that way. So, like, there's some fun, like, secondary characters, like Tig Notaro, like, she's always pleasant. And who's the girl that...
Zoe Chow.
She
was the best part.
Yeah, so
sure.
she was definitely the best part. But it's also like, why couldn't Reese and Ashton just be in a scene together? You know what I mean? Until the very end, they're not in a scene together.
It's written and directed by the person that wrote 27 Dresses and The Devil's Wear Prada. The Devil Wears Prada.
And I love those movies.
Yeah, so the pedigree was there, and Reese signed up. I don't know.
They were very stiff.
Everything was stiff.
The whole movie. It was very weird.
The movie seemed to be written by ChatGPT. That's what it felt like when I started thinking about it. It was really, really lazy and underwritten. It felt like it was written by someone that just hadn't actually lived in the world. It felt like it was written by the cat character from Extraordinary that understood things about the world and saw them, but wasn't human at all and didn't even experience any of it and had really no emotion. Like some of the gags were just so lazy and they didn't make sense.
Yeah.
I was just the whole time I was complaining about it. They made a joke about too many remotes with your living room, which is a classic bit. Everybody has like their one remote that does this or one remote that does that. But when he was explaining it, the way he explained what each remote did, it made no sense. He said one controlled the cable so to make sure the Wi-Fi was on. It just, even if that's a joke, it's not funny.
For Reese's house with the kid and Ashton, but then they also had that same joke in Ashton's apartment here in Dumbo.
Yeah, so at one point, so Ashton Kutcher's character is very rich. He has a very nice, ridiculous apartment overlooking the Brooklyn Bridge, and he has an iPad that can control lots of stuff in his house.
Which those are real things.
Which is totally normal.
Yeah.
It's obviously connected to the Wi-Fi, and at one point, she accidentally turns the music on, and apparently the trick is that you have to point it at the sensor. There's no sensor. We all know that. It's not a funny joke. It's not a funny bit. It's just like someone that saw something in their friend's house of having everything connected to the smartphone, but then didn't understand how it actually worked and didn't know how to make it funny. They had a whole bit about wheelie bags. So both characters have the 2-wheel wheelie bags as opposed to the away bags now or whatever that have 4 wheels. And so many people make jokes about it. They're like, they make bags with 4 wheels now. It's simply not funny. It's like if somebody made a joke, somebody got on a computer and typed in askjeeves.com to search it. And then the person next to them went, Google exists, right? It's like, yes, everybody knows Google exists. These people aren't real. Like these people aren't real people. They're nothing.
Besides
they're vessels for nothing.
All of that stuff, the chemistry wasn't there. Like they just didn't work together, Reese and Ashton. Like it felt very bland. it was disappointing because, like, I want to like this movie. Like, I love this type of stuff, you know? Like, I want it to be funny and romantic, and I want to shed a tear at the end. But at the end, to be honest, I was just annoyed.
Yeah.
I was just, like, annoyed that I watched it.
Presumably, the writer and Reese probably thought, wow, wouldn't it be interesting to have a romantic comedy where the two characters in the romance are actually never even on the same coast? And then making that actually happen, you realize it's simply not possible. It doesn't work. It doesn't. You know what? Maybe it would, because there's so many other things in this movie that were just lazy. Like, again, the gags, but even the filmmaking. At one point, it was a tiny little thing. But again, after pointing out all these things all movie of being like, that doesn't make sense. Why did they say that? She is walking through Dumbo and kind of realizing, ooh, I'm going to spruce up Ashton's
I don't know
apartment.
why this one bothered you
Drove
so
me
much.
nuts because it's so lazy. It's so easy to fix this. She goes to a vendor who's selling, they had talked about herb plants.
Oh my God.
She goes to a vendor that's selling herb
You're getting too
plants.
nitpicky right now.
No, but it was a sign of everything else that was wrong with this movie. It's a tiny little microcosm of that. She picks up 3 pots. She asked the person, how much for 3? Smash cut to her setting them up in the apartment, and there's 5. So why not just ask, how much are these? How much are these? What's for 1? How much for 5? Like, why say how much for 3 and then get the prop person to set up 5? Or just set up 3. Like, it's just a tiny inconsistency that is a microcosm of how lazy the rest of this movie was. There's basically no conflict, as we talked about. Like, it doesn't have your classic, will they or won't they? Oh, they will. Now they're fighting. Oh, no, it's definitely not going to work out. We're all sad. Yeah. Oh, they worked it out. Yes. There's just none of that. It goes from, we're friends. You didn't tell me you wrote a book. We're lovers. Yeah. That's it. And
just all rom, no com.
Sure. Yeah, I guess it took itself a little too seriously. And it was just bad. Like, there was just other moments that they could have, you hint at things earlier. You hint at Ashton still loving her. Something simple of, it's like, basically they told us that Ashton loved Reese Witherspoon's character. And they also told us he was some sort of unlovable prick who broke up with girls every 6 months. But they didn't show it, and they never showed really. They could have established why, after they hooked up the first time, why it didn't work for Reese's character. They basically just said, oh, we hooked up. Ashton said, we can't be together. And that was it. And now we've been friends for 20 years. But why not show, oh, Reese Witherspoon was also hesitant because it didn't seem like he was mature enough and she wanted a family. And at the time he didn't. And now she still questions, can he be a good father? And then she sees that when he's taking care of her son, he is a very good father figure and he really helps the kid. But they didn't establish that as a conflict at all. And they didn't establish why that Ashton still loved her. I could keep going and ranting on it, but nobody wants to hear that. They didn't establish really anything. There was no conflict. There was no chemistry. It didn't make sense. The writing was boring.
Now, for something that was boring and maybe overwrought to something that was super fun, and something we actually enjoyed watching a lot, surprisingly, was Shotgun Wedding. So Shotgun Wedding is the new J-Lo movie with
Josh Duhamel.
And I expected not to like this movie, to be completely honest. I was going in thinking this is going to be cheesy, like, just especially after watching Your Place or Mine. I was just like, yeah, this is not going to be good. But I thought it was really funny and really good, to be honest. I mean, it got a little crazy at the end, but I was kind of in for it.
Yeah, it was goofy and over the top, but definitely funny. The jokes landed, and we can compare it to the previous movie where the jokes were just lazy and obviously nobody gave any notes.
Yeah.
But this movie was really funny. The jokes were actually really funny, and the characters were clever and interesting. And yeah, they were ridiculous. The whole thing was ridiculous. but it worked and the lines were smart, even in this crazy scenario of pirates taking over a wedding in the Philippines.
Yeah, so essentially just Josh Duhamel and J-Lo are set to get married in this beautiful resort in the Philippines, and pirates come in and take over the wedding and try and get money from J-Lo's dad, who is Cheech from Cheech and Chong, that I didn't even realize until the end of the movie. And it was fun. It had a lot of cool people. Like we said, J-Lo and Josh Duhamel. Jennifer Coolidge plays Josh's mom, who I really stole every scene she was in. Like, I have to say, I was expecting to be like maybe tired of her and a bit like, not annoyed, but just like a little sick of like her shtick. But honestly, she did great. Like, everything that came out of her mouth, I was dying.
She's a legendarily funny person.
I know. And I guess I just like forgot, before the White Lotus, like that's all she did. And yeah, she was great.
Yeah, she had a full hilarious career before the White Lotus made her a global superstar, I guess.
The only thing that I didn't love was Lenny Kravitz's character. I was just kind of, every time he was kind of on screen, I was like eye rolling. But I mean, he did that one, I don't know, whatever the charismatic playboy.
He's a beautiful man.
Oh, absolutely.
that was
yeah, and I guess that was the point.
They started off that he's the ex-boyfriend who, or actually the ex-fiance, who the dad invites to the wedding because he's a good businessman and they're business partners now. And then it turns into that he's somebody else. But it's kind of a thankless role. Like, somebody kind of has to be the straight man, and in this case, the villain. And I feel like in most of these movies where, it's not a serious movie. So the villain that has to be like mean, it's just never going to be the best unless they're insane over the top mean. And Lenny Kravitz just is not going to do that.
And the one thing that I thought was funny and kind of confusing the whole time, the girl who plays Cheech's girlfriend, whose real name is Darcy.
Yeah, Darcy Carden.
Yeah, Darcy Carden. And then J-Lo's character in the movie, her name is Darcy. And it just was like confusing me the whole time. I mean, I eventually got used to it, but I just thought it was so strange when they were in scenes together.
A weird choice, when you're naming things. I mean, it's her real name. It's not like there was a different character named Darcy, but I bet it was confusing for her for a little bit.
Yeah.
Another thing that was really fun about it was that they really leaned into the violence.
Yeah, the action of it. It was crazy.
It was pretty violent. There were some pretty gnarly scenes.
Yeah.
And I thought that was cool. Like, it seems crazy. Like, so full disclosure, we decided we were going to watch these 3 rom-coms. And we were going to go in order of worst to first or best to last or whatever. And I fully expected Shotgun Wedding to be the worst one.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too.
So maybe it's a thing of expectations.
That's
that you
true.
expect it to be terrible,
I
and it
agree.
was actually really funny, and it was over the top, but it knew it was over the top. Whereas Your Place or Mine was just nothing. Like, there was just there was
no
there.
story. Yeah.
And I don't know. And maybe it's also just J-Lo versus Reese Witherspoon.
It's true.
I don't know if we need to like fully compare their careers and their abilities. I think Reese Witherspoon is also a good actress, but I think Jennifer Lopez is legitimately funny. And I just don't know if Reese Witherspoon is. She's obviously a great actress.
But would Reese Witherspoon get like down and dirty like this? You know what I mean?
She never has, so I don't know.
Exactly. The only thing I could think of is that like mountain hiking movie. And even that.
Sure. And then, what's funny, and actually what I wanted to say about Your Place or Mine is like, these movies are simple, right? They're gonna work, usually. Even the worst ones or the most simple ones, like you People, it wasn't great. But the special love time, when it finally works out and everybody's happy, it works. And even in Your Place or Mine, when finally they get to it, the 5 minutes that there's actually a conflict, and then they make up and Ashton says that he loves her, it still worked for that 5 minutes. But what I thought was cool about this pirate
Shotgun
action
Wedding?
movie was that after like massive shootouts with Jennifer Coolidge and blowing people up and ziplining through the woods, dropping grenades.
Someone getting chopped up by a helicopter.
Yeah. Like when they finally do the
wedding
and oh no, I definitely still want to get married and I love you and you're my person. It still really worked.
I teared up.
Yeah.
It got me in the end, and that's what you want.
Yeah, so it kind of
Yeah,
had
like
everything.
I felt
really
for these
liked it.
people. Yeah, I felt for these people. Like it was legitimate. And I do have to say one last thing about this movie is J-Lo looked so good throughout
Crazy.
the whole freaking movie, even in a bad wedding dress, which I would say is arguably not bad. She made that thing look so good. And especially by the end when it's like all falling apart, it probably looked even better.
When she had her glamour shot, or not even, like it was kind of like her action hero shot,
Yeah,
her
yeah.
Ripley shot from Alien of when she takes part of the dress off to be more comfortable, and she picks up a gun and she's in like this half cut off dress and
Yeah.
just like this badass moment.
And it's all dirty and
She
ripped
looks
up.
amazing.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
looks amazing. It's
She looks so good.
ridiculous.
And then she still has her full like face of makeup on. Mine would just be like down my face and wiped off by that moment. But yeah, no, she looked
Especially
great.
in the tropics, it was not one hint of sweat.
Yeah, no frizz.
Yeah.
No frizz at all.
The powder person, the makeup department that would have to come in between every cut.
Yeah,
must have
I
been
need one of those.
sprinting in and out
Yeah.
constantly. I can't imagine.
Oh my gosh. No. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I have to say, I did really enjoy it.
I did too. It was really good, shockingly good. The last movie, so actually the first movie we watched, but the last one we wanted to talk about because I think it was the best, even though Shotgun Wedding was really good, but it's hard to say it was amazing just because it's so goofy. But Alison Brie and Dave Franco's new movie called Somebody I Used to Know. They wrote it together during the pandemic, and Dave Franco directed it. I think this might be his second movie after his spooky Airbnb haunted thing, which Alison Brie was also in. It was also really good. But so as opposed to, so Your Place or Mine and Shotgun Wedding are a little more of your classic rom-coms, you know, J-Lo's in it. So it's like your classic Made in Manhattan type thing, although this one was closer to Pineapple Express. But I wouldn't go into Somebody I Used to Know thinking that type of rom-com.
This is more of like a drama in a way.
Yeah, it's certainly really funny. And then the beginning of it, it really had some clever jokes that, like, obviously just a different comedy mind. It's a different audience, honestly, that they're going for. But it's closer to like the show Love Life, the High Fidelity show, some of the Duplass brothers stuff when they did a little more romance, and then specifically Joe Swanberg's movies, which in an interview, Alison Brie kind of called out because she had worked with him and Dave Franco had also worked with him. So they kind of took that vibe almost, like a very indie romance about real people. That's what was so different about this one. It just they felt like real people with real stakes and who made real mistakes and had real thoughts, as opposed to your classic rom-com and especially Your Place or Mine, that they were just not real people. You know, everything was just laid out for them and the story was already there. A basic overview of the plot, and we highly recommend you watch it. So maybe pause it and go watch it and come back. It's on Amazon. It opens up that Alison Brie is producing a kind of ridiculous baking show, like one of your
food reality.
Yeah, food reality shows,
competition.
like the ones that are all over Netflix, like the Is It Cake or Not, right? That was
Yeah,
a show,
yeah.
a real show on Netflix.
Which I watched.
Yeah. She finds out the show is not getting picked up for season 3. So she decides to go home, another classic trope, kind of a down on your luck person, going home to maybe rediscover themselves. And she runs into Jay Ellis, who is, we learn, an ex-boyfriend, and much more than that they were almost married. They were contemplating starting an entire life together. And she bailed on that to go to Hollywood. And what we learn is try and make her serious documentary dreams come to life. And then from what we've seen, that kind of turned into a very successful show, which is nice. I'm not knocking anybody, and they're not knocking really anybody that it comes to, but it's not fulfilling her in the way that she imagined a true documentarian career would be.
Yeah, so she basically goes home, rekindles a friendship with her ex-boyfriend, Sean, played by Jay Ellis, and she finds out he's about to get married. And then it's her goal to sabotage the wedding. And so it's kind of that typical trope. Like, I feel like we've seen Julia Roberts in these type of movies, but I really do love how this kind of flips it a little bit. I mean, it's definitely cringy at times. Alison Brie's character is a bit selfish and entitled. You think it's going to come to at an expense of a Black woman, which is always just like a really bad look. I love how this movie gives other woman Kiersey Clemens, who plays Cassidy, which is Jay Ellis's fiance's name. This movie gives her agency. Like, it makes her into a well-rounded character. Alison Brie becomes friends with her, and Sean, Jay Ellis's character, kind of just becomes like more of a side character. But yeah, Alison Brie and Cassidy's form a friendship, and Alison starts seeing herself in this Cassidy character, and she starts seeing, like, because Cassidy is in a band and she is still pretty young and has fully, like, she has these dreams, and Sean is very much like, no, I want to stay here. I want to build a family. I want to build my career here. So
Yeah, Alison Brie starts to see in Cassidy, whom were introduced as that she is in a punk band with two other women, and they had been touring. They bring up that they opened for Sleater Kenny, so like decent. She's not super successful, but doing something, and they love it. She loves it, and once again, kind of like Sean, we learn did with Alison Brie's character, is like Irma just said, he has his life in this small town, and he has a business, and he has a house, and basically assumes and almost seems like demands or expects once again this girl to kind of give up
her dream
and the
for
touring
his
life.
Yeah.
And even if it's not them killing it and making so much money, she's still young and she can still tour and still loves it, and basically concedes that she's going to stop. And they played their last show. So Alison Brie starts to see that. And really what I think separates this movie from most romantic comedies and makes it, again, more like the classic mumblecore Swanberg-esque movies is that everybody makes mistakes. And honestly, for a lot of the movie, you're really rooting against Alison Brie, who's the lead. Where in most of these rom-coms, you're like, oh yeah, Jay Ellis should 100% break up with this shitty girl and be with our queen. And they're just like, no, everybody is kind of bad. Actually, the wronged woman, the other woman is, other than her giving up her life, is really the one that doesn't make mistakes. Like she is giving up her dream, but she's actually the most redeemable character. And so you're almost rooting for like Alison Brie to just like back off, girl.
Yeah, and so another character that we didn't even mention, Danny Pudi from Community, and he's in Mythic Quest now. But I assume like Alison Brie and Danny became friends on Community, and it's just actually really fun to watch them on screen because you can probably just imagine that they're probably genuine friends, and they really showed that in this movie. And he voices to her like, you really need to stop this.
Yeah, he's the voice of reason.
Yeah, he is the voice of reason.
And he was the third friend when Alison Brie and Sean were younger and in this town. And Danny Pudi is Sean's best friend. Yeah. Jay Ellis's character's best friend.
He's so funny in this movie.
Yeah, always. He's very funny. Yeah, just like everybody makes mistakes. Jay Ellis's character makes a lot of mistakes. Like he doesn't fully commit to his fiance. He doesn't fully commit to Alison Brie. When the movie opened, well, not opened, but when Alison Brie and Jay Ellis meet each other at the bar, they spend all night together. And then when Irma said, oh, now she's going to realize that he has a girlfriend or a fiance. And I was like, but he just spent all night away. Like, that's weird. Like,
weird.
I would never do that, darling. It would just never happen. I would never be in that situation, I don't think. And he does. And he makes mistakes, and he doesn't. He sees what's happening with Alison Brie, that she's involving herself in all of these pre-wedding events, even though some of it's like his mom asking her to, but like he can obviously say, I need you to step away from this.
Yeah.
I loved you once, but I've moved on and things are different now. And he never does that. And so obviously he allows it just as much as Alison Brie is pushing herself a little too much.
And then by the end, Alison Brie, we keep saying her full name.
Yes, you have to. Alison Brie. You don't just say Alison.
I know.
Miss Brie. Mrs.
Miss Franco.
Yeah. Well, I don't think she changed her name. Irma Montefusco.
Yeah. So we realize that, or Alison, I should say, realizes that
Alison Brie.
Within Cassidy, it's somebody she used to know. She recognizes within Cassidy that spark, that drive, that willingness to take a chance on a dream is essentially what Alison was searching for. Rather than maybe an old flame, it's more of that drive that she wants back, because she went to Hollywood to become a documentary filmmaker and then kind of got sidelined into making money, a quote unquote selling out by making this food show. And she realizes like, no, like the somebody I used to know was like Cassidy and her dream. And that inspires her to make the documentary she's always wanted to. And so at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, you see Alison Brie's boobies.
A classic, a moment that will live in infamy, honestly.
In your mind.
Yeah. From Community days, they named the monkey that was in Community, I forget her character's name, but they called that the monkey's name was that character's boobs. That was the name of it. I just forget her name. Yeah. Like her boobs have always been a thing.
Oh, and, she's got good boobs.
Yeah. And apparently in real life, she's a big nudity gal. She's talked about it in a bunch of interviews, like in college, that she would kind of just walk around nude. And her and Dave Franco met, I think, on Molly one night. And
they did. Yeah. I was actually just watching an interview with them on GQ, and she offered him Molly, and he was just like, well, I was going to take it. I had never taken Molly before, but I felt like I had to take it.
Yeah. And actually, so the one of the closing shots is they're making themselves comfortable. The documentary that she always wanted to do was about this nudist colony, and she self-discovers herself. Everybody learns something about themselves. The two, Jay Ellis and the other woman, get married, and Alison Brie goes and makes her documentary. And the way that she makes everyone on camera feel comfortable is that everybody in the crew is also nude.
Yes.
And I thought it was funny. Irma said, do you think Dave Franco and the actual crew were also nude? And I'm thinking maybe.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe.
Dave Franco was probably hanging it out there just as like a solidarity for all of it.
Yeah.
And how do you tell this story without imbibing it yourself and be like, we are free, our bodies are free, everybody's good, man. I have an image, and I want to believe that everybody was naked there having a great time.
Yeah.
And that's it for rom-coms. I hope everybody had a very happy Valentine's Day. Don't watch Your Place or Mine, but if you liked it, hey, to each their own, right?
Exactly.
I would say watch Shotgun Wedding. It's really fun. And somebody I used to know was in your classic rom-com, but we really liked it. And if you feel like you agree with our sensibilities listening to us these past few episodes, you'll probably like it too. Real story about real love and real pain. But next episode is a big one. We're going to see Ant-Man on Friday in the Dolby Theater.
Ant-Man.
Yeah. Oh.
Was that a good impression?
No. Scott, I have something I can give you. Time. Jonathan Majors, they gave us a little peek at the end of Loki, but he's here. Kang is here. The new big bad. 5 years from now, the Kang dynasty, whatever that will be. But Kang is here. We're going to be talking about our instant reactions to Ant-Man and what it means going forward. Are we scared about how multiversal time traveling goopy doopy doop it's going to get? Maybe it'll be great. I'm thinking the trailer looks really good. I think it's going to elevate Ant-Man into a totally different, higher space than he has been within the MCU.
I'm excited. We're going to go see it on Friday.
Actually, so I think as we did with these rom-coms and as we did last week where we watched the one M. Night Shyamalan movie, but that kind of got us talking about M. Night Shyamalan as a whole. This will get us talking about the MCU previously and going forward. I think maybe we'll start a new segment that I'm going to call Underrated, Overrated. And we could say each of our most underrated and overrated MCU movies. Make a little argument for that we can bring forward. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think it'll be a big, fun conversation.
All right. Well, I think that's it for us today. Thank you so much to Craig for the production assistance and to John Welsh for our intro and outro music.
Subscribe so you know every time we post a new episode. Follow us on all the socials at Talkin Tent without the G. And feel free to email us any questions, comments, ideas, thoughts on Your Place or Mine. Did you like it?
That's the only one you care about.
Yeah. From our living room to yours, what do you want to watch?